Lara stood frozen in the doorway, watching her mother-in-law tilt the baby's milk bottle into her mouth, eyes closed, drinking slowly. She lived with her husband Damilare in a 2-bedroom apartment that wasn't exactly small, but somehow always felt crowded, not because of furniture, but because of Mama Ronke. Lara sat quietly on the sofa, rocking her newborn baby in her arms. The house was full of people, friends, aunties, cousins, all dressed in white for the baby's naming ceremony. But no one was really looking at her. They were looking at Mama Ronke. Her mother-in-law moved through the living room like she was the one who gave birth. People laughed at her jokes, praised her cooking, and told her, "You've raised such a strong son. What a beautiful family." Not one person said thank you to Lara. Not one asked how she was feeling after delivery. She smiled politely, even though her back was aching, her eyes burning from sleepless nights. Damilare, her husband, stood by his mother's side, proud and relaxed. He barely looked at Lara. When it was time to name the baby, Mama Ronke stepped forward, lifted the child with both hands and whispered, "This is my second chance." Lara blinked. Second chance? What did she mean by that? She was too tired to ask. That night, the guests left, and the house finally became quiet. Lara was in the kitchen warming up breast milk she had pumped earlier. Her baby was crying upstairs, and her feet dragged with every step. She placed the milk bottle on the table and went to grab a towel. When she came back, the bottle was half empty. She paused. Did she forget she'd already fed the baby? Then she heard it. A soft gulping sound. She turned around, and there was Mama Ronke standing near the fridge, sipping the baby's milk from a teacup. Lara froze. Ronke looked calm, almost peaceful. She put the cup down slowly and turned to her. "Oh, don't look so surprised," she said, smiling. "Breast milk is full of nutrients. You young girls throw everything away. In our time, we valued what nature gave us." Lara couldn't believe her ears. Her chest tightened, and her mouth stayed open, but no words came out. She went upstairs and cried silently beside her baby. The next morning, Lara told Damilare what happened. He laughed. "You're tired. You probably imagined it." She tried again. "I saw her drinking the baby's milk, Dami. I swear." He shrugged. "So, it's not poison. She was probably trying to help." That day, Mama Ronke followed Lara around the house. "You should eat more," she said. "Your body's too weak. If you can't keep up with the baby's feeding, I'll handle it." Lara didn't reply, but deep down something started to shift. She began to feel like she was no longer the mother in the house. That evening, as Lara rocked her baby in her arms, Mama Ronke sat nearby, watching closely. She leaned in and whispered, "You know, when I had Damilare, I didn't rest like you. I cleaned, cooked, and still had time to raise my child. We were strong women back then." Lara looked at her baby, then at the woman beside her. She smiled gently. But something inside her whispered, "This isn't help. This is a warning." The next few days felt like a quiet storm. Lara woke up early, ready to feed her baby. But every time she reached the crib, he was already fed and sleeping. She walked into the kitchen and found Mama Ronke humming softly, washing a tiny milk bottle. "You look tired," she said with a smile. "So I fed him for you." Lara felt her heart drop. She didn't say anything. She just nodded. But something wasn't right. Each day the baby seemed to cling to Ronke more. When he cried, it was Ronke who picked him up first. When he smiled, it was in her arms. Lara felt herself slipping out of the picture. She was the mother, but she didn't feel like one anymore. Even Damilare noticed it. "Wow," he said, watching his mother rock the baby. He's really attached to her. Huh? Lara stayed silent. Her throat felt tight. The next week, Lara came downstairs and stopped cold. Ronki and the baby were wearing matching outfits. Tiny Ankara print for the baby, full wrapper and blouse for Ronka. They posed for pictures. She posted one on Facebook with the caption, "Finally, I get to raise a child properly." No mention of Lara, not even a tag. Later that evening, Lara asked her gently, "Mama, why did you dress him like that?" Ronki shrugged. "Don't be silly. I just wanted a nice picture. You should have joined us, but you were still sleeping." Then she added, "You sleep a lot, Lara. Maybe your body isn't producing enough milk. That's why he's always hungry." Lara's chest tightened. That night she tried to breastfeed. The baby cried and pushed away. When she checked the fridge, she found her bottles, half full, watered down. "Cow milk," she whispered. "She's been adding cow milk." She wanted to scream. But she knew Damelaire wouldn't believe her. The final blow came from the maid. One afternoon, Lara overheard the maid laughing on a call. She was saying, "Madam no day feed Pekin again. Na mama day save the boy. Small time baby go call her mummy." Tears filled Lara's eyes. She walked into her room, shut the door, and held her baby tight. "I'm your mother," she whispered. "Don't forget that. Please, don't forget." Later that night, as she tried to sleep, her phone buzzed. It was a screenshot sent by her cousin. It was from a family group chat, one Lara wasn't part of. In the chat, Mama Ronki had written, "This girl is just a womb with lipstick. Always. Tired. Can't even bond with her own baby. Good thing I'm here." The words burned. Lara stared at them, heart pounding. She wasn't imagining anything. She wasn't crazy. She was being pushed out. And if she didn't fight back soon, she'd be erased completely. It was Damilaire's cousin's engagement party. The house was buzzing with music, decorations, and dozens of family members dressed in lace and sequins. Lara hadn't planned to go. She felt drained, invisible, like a shadow in her own life. But something inside her snapped that morning. She wore her best-fitted dress, styled her hair, added lipstick for the first time in weeks. When she stepped out of the room holding the baby, Damelaire looked surprised. "Wow, you look like the old you." Lara didn't respond. She just smiled softly and walked past him. At the party, people whispered as she entered, "She's glowing. She's finally showing up." Lara tried to smile. She held her baby and greeted people, but her eyes kept drifting to Mama Ronke, who stood proudly beside Damelaire, holding the baby bag like it was hers. Ronke had already told 3 guests that day. "This boy sleeps in my room now." Lara gets overwhelmed easily. Later, while Lara was getting juice, she heard laughter behind her. She doesn't even feed the baby anymore. The mother-in-law acts more like the mom. Lara turned slowly. It was Damilaire's cousins, giggling with their phones in hand. Something cracked inside her. When it was time for family photos, Ronki walked forward holding the baby. She smiled and said, "Let the mothers come to the front." Lara stepped forward and stood beside her. Someone joked, "But which mother are we talking about? The one who gave birth, or the one who raised him?" The room laughed, but Lara didn't. She took the mic from the MC and said clearly, "I'm the mother, the only mother, and I'm done being quiet." The laughter died. Lara turned to the crowd. "For weeks, I've been pushed out of my babies. Life, fed lies, replaced, and nobody said anything, not even my husband." People looked around, uncomfortable. Ronke stepped forward, trying to take the mic. "Stop embarrassing yourself. but Lara pulled it back. "No, Mama. You've embarrassed me enough. You stole my milk, my time, my bond with my child. You dress him like your trophy and post him online like he's your second chance. But he's not. He's mine." A stunned silence filled the room. Damilar looked like he wanted to disappear. Ronki opened her mouth, but said nothing. Outside, under the tree near the gate, Lara sat alone with her baby. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but her hands held the child tight. A woman approached, Damilar's aunt. She sat beside Lara and said softly, "You're not the first woman this has happened to." Lara turned. "What do you mean?" The aunt sighed. "Damilar had a fiancée before you. The girl left a week before their wedding. Everyone said it was cold feet. But she told me something else." Lara waited. She said Mama Ronki didn't want a daughter-in-law. She wanted someone to control. Lara's heart pounded. So this wasn't just about her. It was a pattern, and if she didn't stop it now, her son would grow up thinking this was normal. Lara returned home after the engagement party, holding her baby close. She didn't speak a word to Damilar, and he didn't ask her to. He walked 10 steps behind her like a stranger. That night, they slept in separate rooms. Over the next few days, something changed in Lara. She stopped arguing. She stopped crying. She just watched. Watched how Mama Ronki fed her baby without asking. Watched how the maid now brought food to Ronki's room instead of hers. Watched Damilar scroll his phone when she tried to talk. So she started recording. Little things. A voice note where Ronki said, "Lara is lazy. If I don't take care of this baby, he won't grow strong." A photo of the half-filled bottles mixed with cow milk. Screenshots of group chats. She saved them all. One morning, as she made breakfast, Mama Ronki entered the kitchen. "You should rest," she said sweetly. "I'll be taking the baby to the village for a few weeks. He needs fresh air. You need space." Lara didn't reply. Ronki smiled. "I've already spoken to Damilar. He agrees." That afternoon, Lara called her lawyer, quietly, calmly. She asked one question. If a grandmother tries to take a child without the mother's consent, is that legal? The lawyer paused, then answered, "No. Not unless custody is signed over. Be careful, madam." That night, Lara waited until Damilar came home. She had dinner ready. His favorite. He sat down, looked surprised. "What's all this?" Lara smiled gently. "Just wanted to talk." Halfway through the meal, she asked, "Why do you keep choosing her over me?" He didn't answer. She asked again, "Is it because I'm not loud like her, not demanding? Or do you just love her more than your wife?" Damilar sighed. "Don't start, Lara. She's my mother. She's done more for this family than anyone." Lara stared at him. "And what about me?" He stood up. "You want praise for giving birth? That's what women are made to do." Her breath caught. She couldn't speak. He walked away. The next morning, she found a document on the dining table. It was from the baby's health insurance. A new name had been added to the power of attorney. Mama Ronki. That was it. She packed her bags, diapers, clothes, documents, the baby. She didn't wait for anyone to stop her. She left. At her mother's house, she felt her heart break in slow motion. She kept whispering to herself, "I'm not weak. I'm not crazy. I'm just done." Her mother held her hand and said, "You gave that family your womb, and they tried to take your soul." The next week, Lara got a message from Damilar. Just 4 words. "You're blowing this up." She didn't reply. She simply forwarded the voice recordings, photos, and screenshots to his email. Then she blocked him. Weeks passed. Lara stayed at her mother's house, slowly finding herself again. No maids, no tension, no whispers behind closed doors. Just peace. She spent her mornings breastfeeding her baby, humming soft lullabies. She smiled for real. She laughed without guilt. For the first time since giving birth, she felt like a mother. One afternoon, she picked up her phone and started talking. She didn't plan it. No script, just her voice. "Hi, I'm Lara. I lost my milk to someone who wanted my power, but I got it back, and I'm not ashamed to say I broke, but I healed." She posted the video. That one video reached thousands. Women from all over Nigeria, mothers, daughters, daughters-in-law, shared their stories. She wasn't alone anymore. One morning, a package arrived at her mother's gate. No name. Just a simple box. Inside was a soft yellow onesie, hand-knitted, and a bottle of milk, along with a letter. "I still drink it every day, because it reminds me of what I lost. Not youth, but the power I never had as a woman. You took it back, and I see you now. You became what I could never be. Ronke." Lara folded the letter and held her baby close. He looked up and smiled. She whispered, "You will grow up knowing your mother never gave up. She gave everything." A few days later, she agreed to one final session with a family counselor. Damilar came. So did Ronke. She listened, calm, tired, older. "The counselor," asked Lara, "do you want to speak?" She shook her head. "No, I already said everything I needed to when I left." Outside, as she buckled her baby into the car, the counselor walked up to her. "You're the first woman in that family to say no." Lara smiled. Someone had to. She drove off, wind in her hair, sun on her face, baby in the back seat giggling. She didn't cry. She didn't look back. She had nothing left to prove. She had already won. What do you think about married life with a mama's boy? Have you ever experienced a situation where your mother-in-law tried to take over your baby? Share your story and let us know your thoughts in the comments below.